Spoken like a true anchor.
Yeah. All right, Lawrence.
Starting with me. And then we're going to Greg Pitts over here. Okay. Welcome back. We have one more segment. I know that a number of you need to leave really promptly at 3 o'clock, so we will wrap this up at 2:55. And I asked for this next segment because it's a big part of the job I have to do every day, which is to try to interest the next generation into attending the School of Journalism. And this is universal. We alluded to it earlier. Although there are demographic trends that show that there are fewer high school students, period, especially in the South, and that's leading to declines in enrollment. The truth is that the College of Media and Entertainment, our numbers are actually going up in animation and film and television and in the recording industry, which is a troubled industry, but young people nonetheless think it would be a glamorous thing to be unemployed in. So they enroll, and our numbers are really good, but the alarming thing is we do see a steady decline in the School of Journalism. And so, in large part, that is separate and distinct from the quality of the School of Journalism. I mean, if you've heard from a number of people here, we feel pretty good about the direction. We have a lot of work to do. But those 18-year-olds who are not enrolling are not making that decision because I think we have a substandard program. They're not enrolling because of a lot of factors, including their parents are discouraging them. They've heard about newspapers failing. There's an environment out there that's not conducive to getting kids excited about the School of Journalism. So, and this is universal, and we tried really hard with this roundtable. It's not about you're not like 16 consultants to come and fix us. This is a conversation about all schools of journalism across the country. And so we've got some people who are highly experienced in marketing, and Ronald Roberts, as I mentioned earlier, already helped us with the name of our college. Andrew Ottman every single day makes us look good. Any accomplishments at the College of Media and Entertainment, the entire world knows about it, whether they want to or not. And so the challenge I'm putting forward, for journalism schools everywhere, is if you had to market this as a product, and quality matters, but it's not always going to be apparent to a 17 or 18-year-old whether you have quality. So it's about orientation, it's about positioning, it's about a message to their parents. What would you call the School of Journalism? Might it be a more elaborate, different name? And what message do you send to parents, the community, and to students about why this is a really logical place to enroll? And that's one of the biggest challenges journalism schools face, period. So I've asked Greg Pitts to lead us on this discussion because the stakes are huge for him personally.
Yeah, and Ken has really set up this discussion. I mean, framed it nicely because first, what do we call ourselves? When I go out for a recruiting visit, we do the True Blue Tour. I don't have somebody walk up to me and say, I want to come to Middle Tennessee and study public relations or advertising or visual communication, because they know that we're called the School of Journalism. So what do we call ourselves? And I will tell you, we've had an internal discussion. I came here in the fall of 15. The faculty had been discussing this subject before I arrived. So what do we call ourselves?
Wow, are we opening up for nominations?
Absolutely.
I love the name journalism, and I have a bond to it from the choices I made as a youth and the career I had. But you're right. We're broader. It's difficult to translate that to a student at the True Blue Tour. I get that. I suppose I'll start the conversation off with maybe are you a school of media? I mean, I know we are the College of Media and Entertainment, but is this the School of Media? And I know strategic communications is out there. It's a word that's buzzing around quite a bit. Ronald, I know you've bumped into it a few times, and I have too. I don't quite know what it means, but it sounds really good. I like strategic, and I like communications.
It has a nice ring to it.
Yeah,
Yes.
but really we're teaching media and how to use it, no matter, in so many different ways, in so many different applications, and so many theories. So I'll start with that and see if the exalted panel can go further.
And some folks would say we're teaching the communication of the message delivered by, again, a moving target of media delivery systems.
Can I go on that? My department for years was called technical journalism, which was just a way to differentiate us from the University of Colorado's journalism program, so the legislature wouldn't say you have to shut your stuff down. We then became the school, or the Department of Journalism and Technical Communication, because we had one guy who taught technical communication, and for the 10 students that enrolled in that every year, it was a nice thing. We had to wait for him to retire before we could change the name again. And we changed it to journalism and media communication after 3 years of debate about what we should call it. Applications doubled the very next year.
Wow.
And I think it was because the word media connects to so many of the other things that students are doing. It's sellable. It ties to social media, mobile media, pretty much across the board. We weren't able to get all of those students to enroll. We still have by far the biggest enrollment in our department through internal transfers once they get on campus. So we do a lot of selling on campus in terms of working with the Career for Advisement and Student Success office, and also our College of Liberal Arts advisors. And we also sell very big at high school J-Day, which brings 1,500 students to campus once a year. But the word media, I think, made a huge difference just in itself. So
Yeah, and here, I know we're not having just a focus group on MTSU. We have the Department of Media Arts, which is a big, recently named component of our electronic media communications folks. So maybe, I mean, Greg may be onto something there, media communications. It does have a synergy to it, but so maybe I'd like to amend and extend my motion to that.
Well, I think when
Frustrated city council member over here.
when it comes to names, they're very personal. As I've stated before, I work in public relations, so oftentimes we've worked with companies that either we're looking at a name change or a logo change, and those things are very, very personal. First thing you have to ask yourself is, who is the name for? Are you looking for the name to make your faculty proud, to position yourself with the university? Is the name for students, both current and incoming? Is it for industry professionals? I know that when we were working on the College of Media and Entertainment, those are some of the questions we ask ourselves. Because I will tell you, and this is about any faculty member, if you are a member of the journalism faculty, you're tied to that term journalism. Mm-hmm. That's what you went to school to study. Mm-hmm. That's what you have your passion for. That's what you believe in. So if someone comes in and says, you're media, no, I'm not. I'm a journalist. And when you're looking at that name for that faculty member who's trained in doing that, that's what they are. Is that the name that's going to bring in students? The reality is we're in higher education, but it's also a business. That's the fact. And it's also a marketing business because everyone is after students. So what is the name that's going to generate interest of potential students? So then when you're going out and you're selling, and I know that sounds bad to academicians, that word I can't say, to smart people, sometimes you're selling your university. And so what is it that's going to make people interested in coming to your university? Because a lot of schools teach journalism. You know, you may make the decision that journalism is that name. But if your target is future students, it may not be the fit. So you've got to determine who you're naming it for. And you got to think through that very carefully. Are you naming it for the people that are there and have been there? Or are you naming it for the people that you want to come?
And I want to, because I set the challenge, I want to expand on it a bit. Because you're absolutely right, and the audience is really 18-year-olds, 17 and 18-year-olds, and then a name that doesn't frighten their parents. Mm-hmm. But we could get down this road a real long way about what words work. What I really want to know is, how do you position a school of journalism, regardless of its name, to those students and parents, so it doesn't sound like dead end land, that what we teach here will serve you well. I mean, the point made earlier about if you're a reporter for 5 years, you can do any job in the world. There's got to be a way to market that and position whatever this entity is so that it becomes almost like like a pre-law kind of thing. We're going to give you the life skills here that you need to be successful in any industry that involves communicating to other people.
And Ken, the follow-up is that in some respects, is a journalism degree or a course of study the parallel track that goes along with STEM education these days. You have so many universities that are on top of science, technology, engineering, and math. And in my own career at multiple universities, I've seen students come in and they were declaring they would study engineering for the first semester. And it wasn't that they weren't smart, good kids, but they simply wound up discovering that, their, if you want to use the word passion for mathematics, wasn't quite what the engineering professors thought that it ought to be, but that they were good writers. They understood media, and they had an interest in this kind of study area. So, Greg, is that part of your marketing on campus where you do see people discovering, having sampled another degree?
Absolutely. We have a very strong science component, actually, students who come in. And then the students who get a D in chemistry invariably come to us as well. But another way to think about how to reach people and their parents is alumni. We are very big on promoting who our alumni are, what they do, how they started, and we have one or two journalism people in that group. People who are journalists, but a lot of people outside of that realm who go into creative industries. And we think that works. We don't know that it doesn't work, and I don't think it can hurt. But like on our website, we have about 15 alumni listed, and all in very different areas. These are very successful people, ranging from Liz Spade, who was the public editor of the New York Times, and is now with Facebook doing essentially the same thing, all the way down to, somebody who just started their own advertising firm and is doing well. So we think that if you talk to students about that, it works. But getting an audience with them individually is a very big part of that.
Ken, one of the things that in years in journalism and talking to staff members over and over again, I asked, well, why'd you get into the business? What made you want to be a journalist? And going back to what Ron was talking about, the attraction, and over again, I would hear people say, I want to make a difference. And maybe after that, it came to write or to tell stories. And I did hear a lot who started in other areas, started in science or started in engineering, and thought maybe that's the way they could make a difference. But it is the one thing as young people, and I don't think a lot of times they're thinking very rationally at 17 or 18 of what I want to do in 5 and 10 years. Maybe their parents are drilling that into them. But I want to do something I'm passionate about, that I care about.
Marty, I'd like to get back to what we talked about in the last session, where I think we need to be thinking about ourselves as a cause and a passion. And I use the ministry as one of those things. So we've got a tent. We've got to come up with a name to get people to come hear the Reverend Ken speak. But the truth is, I think we do need to sell the fact that we offer gateways to careers where you can make a difference, where you can connect with people, you can tell stories. Even if you don't want to be a crusader on this issue or that, you can provide a valuable public service by bringing together audience and people that can solve problems, get things done. I mean, this is an amazing industry, even though it's changed and shifted in so many ways. That's where I think we almost need to be a little bit evangelical about this. And, oh yes, we can teach you the latest tools, grounded in the greatest of old values, applying to things for your next job and the job after that. But get them in the tent.
We live in an information age, and so when you're trying to get people interested in mass communications or journalism or whatever it is, never before has there been a time when people have sought more information. Everyone's looking for information. Now they're getting it in many different ways, but if you're trying to draw people into this industry, you're trying to get people that have a passion for generating information or a passion for finding that information and then sharing it. That's what it's all about. It's all about digging, mining that information, presenting it in a way that no one else can, and sharing that valuable information. It is a service, but it's a service that's marketable because everybody needs it.
And I contend that there's no better word than journalism. Media ethics does not inspire me. Media studies does not inspire me. If I want to make a difference, I am not going to say I want to be a media linguist. I want to go into media studies. I want to be a journalist because I can do something as a journalist that I cannot do as anything else. I was insistent in my own education that I was not going to be a broadcaster. I am a journalist because of what it means. And if we are so worried about who we have in our schools of journalism, I don't want you in the school of journalism if you don't want to do journalism.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit on that. I think the word, over the years, the word journalism means so many different things to younger people, in particular, even parents these days.
Right.
Okay? We faced that when we had programs specifically in journalism, separate in broadcast, mass communication, and it was this cloud where people were more confused than anything else. And so this was back in early 2000s, we were having this discussion because all of us were hearing these different versions of what we did, and would come in, and prospective students come in. I want to be a journalist. What do you want to do? Well, I basically most of them wanted to be. Some of them wanted to, be on MTV.
Right.
Okay, and other ones they thought about, game show hosts or what you name it, that type of thing. So we went on the thing and we changed it to a Department of Media Studies and used that to tell our stories. And the marketing part comes not from us standing up there saying this is what journalism is, but come in here and let our alumni and recent students, those with that, and not necessarily the person who became an executive at CNN 20 years ago, but that person, that alumni who graduated last year and went to Superfly Productions in New York City with the journalism degree and took over their social media operations and now is doing this around the country. That lights a fire in these kids.
Yeah, I agree. And what my contention is that we have done, we being the industry and academia, we have done ourselves a disservice by the way we have marketed ourselves. The university that I graduated from till this day cannot figure out who they are when it comes to educating people to do what we do every day. They can't figure it out. So I want to remind you that Discovery does great journalism, MTV does great journalism. There's a lot of great journalism being done, but it's not being done in a traditional way. And I think part of the way we market this is when you're talking to those students and you put up a documentary that was done on HBO. That's journalism. That these are things that they're watching every day. They're watching Trevor Noah every night. They're watching all of this stuff. It's still journalism. It's different. Though you want those people to have that passion to care about a story.
Craig, it sounds like we're recreating the discussion we had at your school, and you became the School of Journalism and Media Communications.
Yes.
Well, I just want to. It's just a math question. I will hang on for dear life to the name journalism, but we have explored expanding.
And I will too. Just so you know.
But it's just math, because if we're just a school of journalism and the trend continues, we have 6 years and we're done. So, in terms of news ed, might as well then call it the College of Strategic Communication, because that is the rate at which we're losing the kind of journalists you're talking about. That's our dilemma. So we've got to find a way, and this is universal. You will see schools of journalism fold all over this country in the next 10 years. I think, we're not going to lose our program in journalism, but it's possible we have to merge departments. And so we're determined to do something about it. So I'm as romantically involved with the word journalism as anybody, and it's been my entire life. But we have to make sure that we turn around this dramatic decline, and that's part of what this conversation is about.
I can share with you what we just went through, renaming the school and consolidation. I could share with you what we went through if it's of any use. So we were the School of Journalism, Mass Communication. And we got absorbed by, and I'm at Florida International University, we were absorbed by the College of Architecture and the Arts, which was then changed its name to the College of Communication, Architecture, and the Arts. Okay, so then we had the School of Journalism and Mass Communication that had to have its name changed. So most faculty wanted to go with the School of Communication, but a trustee on the board of trustees said, sorry, you can do communication plus journalism. So that became the name of the school. This gets very confusing, the School of Journalism, Communication plus Journalism. We had 2 departments, which I presume you have several departments.
We have
yes?
3, yes.
3. So we broke it down to the Department of Communication and Arts. And the department I'm currently in is the Department of Journalism and Media. So you could see how, and they were just trying to satisfy all the constituents, and it just became, I think it's a little bit crazy. But I do note that trustee was adamant, and she said, this is a journalism school. You can put communication in there, but journalism is staying.
Yeah,
I think,
I think this is one of. I'm fascinated by this discussion and also bored, because if you were to put this in the hands of a 22-year-old, they would say, "Let's call it the College of Andrew because your story inspired me more than anything else," or "Let's find a way for us to tell the experience because." It is imperative, and ironically, Ken, what you're dealing with is the same issue that the newspaper industry is dealing with. 7 years or 8 years, or the organizations that we've all been fond of. At some point we get so territorial in a very positive way because we believe, we're passionate about what we do. But if we look at our future and say, what is it that inspires us to be a journalist? And I think about, Diane, some of the tenets that you had talked about early and, the community building. I mean, should it be bad that a journalism grad wants to start their own business or become an ESPN freelancer? As long as they get a job, you've done your job. If they want to go work for a politically affiliated nonprofit, so be it. But I think, how do we sort of tie in that experience? How do we tie in some of the tenets of community building with the idea of creating a program that feeds the fundamental desires and needs of why journalists still want to be journalists, and at the same time prepare them for the future? I would submit the College of Andrew, the College of Ken, actually has as much resonating value as then worrying about whether we include the word journalism or not in the curriculum.
Well, I'm dead set against the College of Andrew.
I'm for the College of Ken.
I understand and respect what you've had to say. Just the complication here is that, I don't mean to be alarmist about the 6 or 7 years. That's just math. I mean, we have time to turn this around. We will turn this around. We will broaden our appeal. We'll increase our recruiting. The School of Journalism will be here for a long, long time, by whatever, or the School of Andrew. But here's the challenge. Yes, I mean, if you look at some of your smaller properties that are in decline, you'd say, unless we turn it around, they're not here in 6 or 7 years. But you can change anything you want to. We can't. We have tenure. We have state regulation. We do not have the same flexibility and tools. So it's almost more critical for us because innovation or reinvention becomes very, very difficult.
I think it's very important to support scholastic journalism. We have in Colorado for a long time, and I don't know who else is involved. We just happen to have a very strong state organization. And I come off a meeting last week where 1,500 high school students and advisors were singing the First Amendment at this, together. So that's a very strong organization. And frankly, we see their attendance at that journalism day went up 200 this year from last year. And it may have something to do with the fact that we have a national leader who's pulling a lot more attention toward what we do, and hopefully that will have a positive effect like Watergate did. And there's a real good chance, I think, that that's happening now. We haven't seen the end of that game yet, but I would bet money that it's going to have a positive effect on what we do.
I was just at the University of Illinois speaking at a Mobile Me and You conference, and I ran into an old friend of mine named Jerry Miglitz. And Jerry, if you know, she was a fantastic director of photography out on the West Coast for many years, and she's now at Stanford. And she was telling me that their enrollment is up dramatically in the school of journalism there. And she said, the number one thing that students in her freshman class said was that they wanted to fix journalism. And I thought that was really interesting. And, you know, I probed a little. I asked, you know, give me the buzzwords, you know. And she said, we employ design thinking in our journalism curriculum. And everything that we do, we look at through the lens of interactivity. And if you know journalism these days, it is interactive. So, you know, when we're talking about, I'm not just talking about a name here, I'm talking about how we sell these programs to students. And one of the things that I think we need to do for our faculty and our students and our recruits is incorporate that design thinking and to incorporate the word interactive. Whenever I do a summer program here for high school students, and it sells out every year, and it's, you know, Innovation J Camp, and we talk about interactive storytelling, multi-platform storytelling, and the kids are, you know, we do one day of writing, and they're like, yeah, but let's do the podcast now. You know, so we need to be selling those parts of our curriculum rather than, you know, I mean, and I agree with Marty too, that it making a difference, you know, that's why we all did this, so.
You know, let me just follow up on that really quickly because there's a couple of things that I think it is marketing, it is how you describe something, but I think actually that there's evidence and there's research to suggest that kids coming, you know, 10, 12, 13 years old are in fact far more interested in changing the world than perhaps the students we have in today's, you know, the current generation. So that's one piece. Whether you believe it or not, and the data changes, you know, depending upon where you look. But, you know, you can say to parents that your child's going to have 14 jobs before she's 38, and most of them haven't been invented, that whole thing. But the fact of the matter is they get that. And so if you look at what the skill sets are that are associated with journalism, there's not been a parent in the world that doesn't want their kid to be able to do those things. But more importantly, it's how you talk about it. It's about, there is not out there in the world a 16-year-old kid who doesn't want to be a star on her own YouTube channel. Right. They just do want to be a star on their YouTube channel. And there isn't any reason that they can't be a star on their YouTube channel talking about the public good, talking about poverty, talking about race, talking about being a journalist. There's no reason that they can't do that. They want to be, it's me, they want to be in the spotlight. They have that drive to be in the spotlight. And you put all those pieces together, the public good, passion for change, multiple jobs over periods of time, skill sets, and talking about not just you're going to go to a newsroom, not that newsrooms aren't wonderful, but if you told an 18-year-old kid, first 5 years going to beat the daylights out of you, but then you can do anything. They'd be like, yeah, thanks, see you later, right? But you talk about how you now have the ability to build your own brand, to be your own voice, to have it across multiple channels, to create stories across different channels, and to be a force for good. It's not a hard sell. It's just how we talk about it. But then you have to deliver on it.
Right.
Well, one of the things that I always do at the very beginning of a semester is I ask what my students want to do. And I teach generally journalism classes, and 75% of them don't want to go into the traditional fields of journalism. Good. And I ask, what do you want to do? Well, I'd like to do I'd like to go work for a sports team. I want to go do it's like, so what does that really boil down to? Communications and messaging. It's about getting that message out there and being a storyteller and teaching those skills. So, and I did this 10 years ago. We always had this us versus them, PR and journalism in many cases. and higher education, I really think we have to really understand the differences, but how much we also have alike in the same aspect, and introduce those ideas in the classroom. Because, you know, even though I teach a television news class, I know 75% of them aren't going to go to a television newsroom right after that. But I know the skills, whether they were putting a feature story together, looking up information, looking up data, trying to put a story together, whether they go work for a PR firm, go work communications for a political outfit, no matter what, they can tell a story. And I think the more that we kind of open our eyes and give them, open their eyes up in the classroom about the opportunities and the things that they can do, I think that's going to make us better off. And yes, the name thing is we battle with it all the time. And it's, you know, how do we do that? I think if we had I think the whole higher education is having this issue around the country and around the world. Now, we're not alone on that one.
I think with not very many tweaks to our curriculum, we could open the door wider to double majors, and I think that's an excellent opportunity for us. There's a kid in my reporting class right now. I asked the same question on the first day, what do you want to be? He's a neuroscience major, and he's also a journalism major, and what he wants to do is write about neuroscience. There aren't very many majors that will dovetail with other majors as easily and readily as journalism will. If there's something that you're passionate about and you might want to tell other people about it, you can major in that and journalism.
One of the first changes, when I became the editor in Sarasota, I mean, newsroom with a huge history, you know, produced the Marty Kaisers of the world and many, many other outstanding journalists. And my number one objective was not to screw things up. And at a time of significant change in the industry, and we implemented design thinking into the project work that we were doing. And it opened up new partnerships, a new way of thinking. And as you're moving forward, you know, one of the assets that your program has is this wonderful sense of the ability to go find that dream. I mean, I've been Facebook friends with Andrew longer than I think Facebook existed, and I mean, I crave Bonnaroo every year because not only does he share the work of the students, but you feel like you're part of that environment. You can't go to any other journalism school and get that experience. So, you know, how do you build on those assets and at the same time, you know, take advantage of, and Jennifer, you are the future here. I mean, my company went from 0 to 1 million downplays in digital audio casts this year per month, and it just happened. So can you imagine what's going to happen in the industry as a whole? I mean, the New York Times is essentially establishing their franchise around a podcast as they're moving forward. You already have those students who have those skills, and I think it's finding and leveraging that, and at the same time sort of tweaking how do you build that collaboration for the future that allows you to sort of build off of that.
How do we get them in the tent?
Exactly.
And once they get in the tent, will they discover, even if they wanted to be sports media consultant or whatever, doing social media for them, they might discover that journalism is their passion because they were exposed to that opportunity there. So yeah, I think that it all gets back to how do we get, again, that evangelical, how can we get the folks that want to make a difference, that want to use this technology and these things to tell stories and make a mark? How do we get them, those folks in greater numbers to say, this is where I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to apply it yet. They're going to show me some options. But that's where my future is, and these are my people. We are a common tribe.
Well, we are at the, shall I call it the lightning round phase, where we've got about 5 more minutes left. So one of the things that is on my desk to do tomorrow is to start working on the fall 2018 schedule. So, Leon, what did you come back from ONA with that I need to know about that will impact our schedule as a part of developing an innovative program?
Oh, that's a good question. There were so many good things that we talked about at ONA. We had educators meet up. One thing, and Diane, you mentioned this in your talk this morning about having concentrated periods during a semester. I really like the idea of saving the last 2 weeks of a semester. Get rid of your class for the first 13 weeks, and the last two, you're really focusing tightly on that. I'd love to see us be able to do something like that. When I take the kid, I have a road trip class for those of you who are not part of our school. And for 3 weeks each summer, we spend 3 weeks on the road. We leave on Sunday, we come back on Saturday, sleep in our own beds for one night, and then do it all over again for 2 more weeks. And we go to West, Middle, and East Tennessee, have partnerships with individual papers there, and I work their butts off. And I tire myself out, and half of this gray hair came from those 3 weeks, the past 5 years. But you can see the light bulb go on after the first week. The light bulb goes on, and they understand this is what journalism is about, and they get it, and it's just a wonderful experience. I just sit back and watch them. After the first week, I don't have to tell them to find stories. They're already calling ahead to the next town to find stories. So to bring that magic into the fall and the spring semester, I would love to see us, and maybe that 2 weeks is a way to do something like that.
Okay, and Val?
Oh, gosh.
Well, you were there as well. Come
I
on
was
now.
there as
I
well,
depend
yeah.
on you guys.
One of the things I think we all assume is that our students know and understand social media. And really, part of what's happening in social media now is artificial intelligence. And, when I was talking about the slush fund, to Ken in the hallway the other day, I want a subscription to, Chat Fuel or EchoBox or some of those kind of tools. I need the time to learn Run Dexter so we can make our own AI, so we can make our own bots. And those are things that our PR students need to understand. They're things our journalism students need to understand. I talked at length with an editorial person from Quartz the other day, and she is the on the editorial team for bots at Quartz. It's a real job. So, I think that artificial intelligence and how it meshes with social media and with our messages that we're trying to deliver.
So my outside guest from other programs, other industries today, what's the takeaway that I have from you? Bill?
Well, I also went to my first O&A this year. I was sort of like the Yoda character on this panel, and 3,000 journalists in a hotel. And, really the editors' conference was a nice nap afterwards. What I came away, not only from the panel today, and what I came away from O&A is a recognition that local journalism still matters, but we've got to do it in a way that is much more of a relationship than ever before. We have to be involved in the journalism that we do. Instagram works best when you tell your story. And at the same time, the reason that columnists through the years have worked so well in local markets is because they've told the story from a vantage point. They haven't hidden the facts, but they have come forward with a reason why the community needed to be better. And so the opportunity here, not only for journalism education, but the industry that we all love, is how do we start building much deeper, relevant relationships and not be afraid to do so.
Good. Marty?
Let's build on that a little bit. That's the work I've been doing the last few years, and the work starts out to the discussion of digital re-innovation of newsrooms, and the word digital I'm not sure I want in there. Because we start talking about audience. How are we part of the audience? It's interactive. We're not speaking to them anymore. So what are the issues of that for that community, and how does it matter, and how can, as a journalist working to make a difference, to help solve the problems in the community and being part of it and not being separate, just a build on that, and all the different tools then become part of it because there's so many more ways. And what's exciting about today and the opportunities today of getting into journalism, there are so many ways to tell stories that when I started, there just weren't there.
Good. And Ronald.
I think the thing that I would take away from this is we're at a very interesting point in our history. We need to be relevant while not losing our purpose.
Eric, last word.
The last word from me is I am so envious of the educators in this room. You have at your fingertips right now ways to publish. The students can publish today. They can have their own YouTube channels. They can have their own Facebook channels. They are publishers right now. They don't have to wait for a job. You can do a story today, publish a story, get audience feedback on the story right now. Oh my God. You're doing the work right now. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget the connection to the people that you're serving. And I use that word on purpose because we serve. And just do what you do and follow your gut because you wouldn't be here if you didn't.
And Diane, you started us this morning, so can you bring us back home?
I knew you were going to do that. I knew you were feeling stressed. I would suggest that the people in this room care deeply about the same value set, the same experiences, and the same impact that those things have on a democracy. I would suggest that journalism matters. And if the people in this room cannot find a way to communicate that to 18, 16, 14-year-olds and their parents, shame on you. But just as important, the implications of not doing so, not just in this room, but in schools of journalism all over the country, are unimaginable. And if there was ever a time, I can say this standing over here because it's you instead of me, the royal you. If there was ever a time this country needed journalism education and its commitments, spoken not the way it was spoken when our forefathers decided to establish the First Amendment, and not the way Edward R. Murrow spoke it, and not even the way Cliff Benke, who was my first editor at the Wisconsin State Journal, who screamed at me and told me I looked like a yak peed on my head. He meant it nicely. The point is that the language and the execution of journalism has changed, and so too has to journalism education. But its purpose and its value has not, and if anything, as we all know, it is more important than ever. I would ask you, every time you make a decision about your class, and not just what's in it, but how it is scheduled. What is its purpose? How does it fit? Who is it engaging, and why? Not because, God forbid, it's because this is how we do it, but because this is how it needs to be done. And so what did you learn at ONA, right? But what are you going to teach ONA as educators? How are you going to be not bleeding edge? No, but cutting edge. The academy has a place in our culture to be that place where ideas are rewarded for their own sake, and they're not always going to work. But if you get too tired to offer them, then you're in the wrong business. Because the country needs journalism educators a whole lot more than it needs business educators. The country needs what you believe in to be imparted to tomorrow's citizens of this country. Thank you.
Thank you. The measure of a good roundtable is a great benediction. Thank you for that.
I can do a benediction.
That's right. That's right. Let me just thank all of you for being here. This has actually been very rich, and we've captured every word, and we will transcribe it all, and we will edit video sections of it, and we'll make all that content available to every school of journalism in the country in the form of a written report and video highlights. So you'll all be legends by this time next year, and endless speaking opportunities. But I thank you for bringing your passion. I have gone to a fair number of chicken dinner things myself telling the story of the nobility of the First Amendment and journalism and our mission. And I still think that is the most marketable thing we have. But I will say that when I talk to parents and students now about what our mission is at the College of Media and Entertainment, I simplify it by saying we fill this thing. Our video, our audio, our journalism, our communications, they all end up here. And somehow this is hipper to them than mere parchment. So this has meant a great deal to us. Thank you, Deborah, for organizing this, and Rachel, wherever you are, for making sure everything. There you are, Rachel. Thank you for your great work. Let me applause for Rachel. Thank you to Alan and Diane for your keynotes, bringing substance and tax deductibility to everything we do. We would love to have a photograph of everyone here to show just how much knowledge you can gather in one room. We want to form a pyramid, so the largest people in the... so where should we go, Rachel, to take this photo? Do you have a camera? Okay.
How about the outsides come stand behind?
Yeah, we'll stand. That's good.
Okay. Yeah.
That way we can just sit down.